Welcome to the Alberta Legislature for Thursday, April the 5th, 1990. My name is David Carter, Speaker of the Assembly and member of the Assembly for Calgary-Egmont. Today, after question period, the House will be going to Private Members' Day. The first debate will revolve around a motion number 204, as sponsored by the Leader of the Official Opposition, Mr. Martin. The issue will deal with taxation. At 4:30, the House... Let us pray. We give thanks to God for the rich heritage of this province as found in our people. We pray that native-born Albertans and those who have come from other places may continue to work together to preserve and enlarge the precious heritage called Alberta. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
Member for Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to present a petition on behalf of Friends of the West Country. It has been signed by over 630 people who are very concerned about the choice of location for the Sunpine Forest Products Limited project and who are requesting a full, open, public environmental impact assessment into that project.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I will rise today following question period to move under Standing Order 30 that the ordinary business of the House be adjourned so as to discuss a matter of urgent concern, that is the jeopardy that I believe Albertans face with respect to the Pocklington Empire and the inability to get assets out of that empire.
Introduction of bills.
Member for Edmonton Calder.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 244, Residential Caregiver Training Act. This bill would set a minimum requirement for training for caregivers of physically challenged individuals who are or who wish to live independently.
The honourable member for Edmonton Calder has moved first reading to Bill 244, Residential Caregiver Training Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 244, Residential Caregiver Training Act, introduced by the Honourable Member, Ms. Melsness, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 266, an act to ensure the right to a day of religious observance. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the bill is to ensure that Albertans are allowed to observe their religious right and observe the religious day of their belief and other religious holidays.
The honourable member for Edmonton Whitemud has moved first reading to Bill 266, an act to ensure the right to a day of religious observance. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 266, an act to ensure the right to a day of religious observance, introduced by the honorable member, Mr. Wickman, is now read a first time.
Okay.
Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table brochures on Alberta threatened wildlife for all members.
Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to table at the Assembly today 4 copies of these annual reports for 1988-89, the Glenbow Museum, the Alberta Art Foundation, and the Alberta Foundation for the Literary Arts. And as is custom, everybody will get copies to read.
Introduction of special guests.
Minister of Economic Development and Trade.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure, sir, to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly students from Haythorne Junior High School in Sherwood Park. These students, Mr. Speaker, are representatives of the Conservation Education Program at the Haythorne Junior High School and are accompanied by their principal, Mr. Carboll, their teachers, Mr. Files, and Mr. Bill Brennan. It was Mr. Bill Brennan who introduced conservation education to the school in 1974, and since then, nearly 2,000 students have passed the Conservation Hunter Education exam. Mr. Speaker, this morning my colleague, the Honorable Leroy Furbottom, had an opportunity to visit with them and to acknowledge on behalf of this government their unique contribution. I would ask the students and the teachers to rise so that they could be extended the cordial warm welcome of the Legislative Assembly. Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure, sir, to introduce to you and through you another group of students that we had the pleasure of visiting with prior to question period. They are a group from the Mills Haven Elementary School. They're joined by their teachers, Eddie Cameron and Wayne Mays. I would ask them also to rise to receive the warm welcome of the Legislative Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and to our colleagues in the Assembly today 8 visitors, 4 from the great constituency of Edmonton Park Allen, the Browns, Percy, Shirley, Ron, and Eric, and visiting from Newfoundland, the Hostetters, Roy, Margaret, Laura, and Carla. And I believe they're seating in the public gallery. If we could give them a warm welcome.
Minister of Recreation and Parks, followed by the member for Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, I would like today to introduce to you and to the members of the Legislative Assembly 2 individuals that have served the province of Alberta with great dedication and responsibility over the years. They know the trials and tribulations of this House. They're seated in your gallery, and I would like an MLA for 15 years for the Vegreville constituency, John Batuk, and his wife Rose to rise and please receive the warm welcome of this House.
Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly a group of 25 students in grades 5 and 6 from the Murnham Elementary School, and they are accompanied by their teachers, Mrs. Orleen Unland and Mrs. Esther Polischuk, parents, Mr. Oris Yakomolik and Mr. Oris Yakowolik, and the bus driver, Mr. Wally Roth. I was speaking with the students earlier on and mentioning to them that I had not seen them up here previously, and Mrs. Polischuk indicated that it has been some 10 years since they had visited the Assembly. So with that, they are seated in the members' gallery, and I would ask them to rise and receive the traditional welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Calder, followed by Highland.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly Mr. Larry Pempite from the Canadian Paraplegic Association, Mr. Bill Bissett from the Easter Steel Ability Council, Dr. William Clark and his caregivers Hendrik Nicolaisen and Jason Ropert, Connie Clark and her caregiver Donna Mae Griffith, Happy Maurer and her caregiver Lori Payne and Gay Oxford. They are seated in both of the galleries, and I would ask they either wave or stand and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Iowa, followed by Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, I have pleasure to introduce to you and through you a gentleman seated in your gallery. He's the mayor of Turner Valley, where Alberta's oil industry all began. I'd ask His Worship Jack Pitter to rise and receive the warm, cordial welcome of this Assembly.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce to the Assembly 10 members of the group Friends of the West Country who are here in support of the petition I introduced earlier. Included in the group are spokespeople Del Collins and Shelley Thomas. I would ask that they all rise in the gallery and receive the welcome of the Legislative Assembly.
Additional.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, to the Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, this government has shelled out over $2.5 million to cover the legal fees of Mr. Cormie and other impoverished principal group jet setters, Mr. Speaker. It certainly contrasts with what's happening with the legal aid program, Mr. Speaker, and brings this government's priorities into perspective when you compare that with the 1990-91 budget of just $15.6 million, Mr. Speaker, in legal aid funding. Mr. Speaker, a very serious crisis is occurring in funding for legal aid. The Law Society is so concerned, Mr. Speaker, it is bringing in a resolution at its June annual meeting, and they're suggesting in that resolution that they might even withdraw from the legal aid program, Mr. Speaker. This would have a very serious effect that it would accelerate a trend to a two-tiered system. One level of justice for the poor and another for the rich, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
My question then, in view of the seriousness of this matter, will the minister commit this government to providing adequate funding for the legal aid program so the poor in this province have some chance of getting justice, Mr. Speaker?
Should I?
Mr. Speaker, first, the honorable leader of the opposition brings forth a preposterous idea of trying to compare the legal costs of a public inquiry to legal aid for those indigents that need assistance to get access to the legal justice system. The Attorney General's Department, together with the Law Society and the Legal Aid Society, commissioned a task force which reported, came forward with approximately 25 recommendations, and with the exception of 2 or 3 of those recommendations, they've all been implemented. We are under dialogue with the Law Society in preparing a plan that will give everyone in need access to legal aid.
Mr. Speaker, I remind, he may get exercise, but there were $2.5 million went to their friends, Mr. Speaker,
Right.
and their total budget is $15.6 million, and that was a freeze from last year, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
My question is then, how does the Attorney General justify this sort of double standard? $2.5 million to the principal group, $15.6 million to the poor in this province. How does he justify that?
Mr. Speaker, again, preposterous comparisons. Again, a public inquiry is a totally different thing than supplying legal aid for those in need. The dialogue that's ongoing between the Law Society and the government, who are the partners in our legal aid, is to ensure that the program is retrofitted and instead of spend, ensure that the money is spent efficiently and effectively, and that's in fact what's being done.
Mr. Speaker, that answer is totally unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. I agree. There are two different things. You're quite prepared to spend millions of dollars on people who don't need justice, but you're not prepared to spend money on the people that do. There's no doubt about that. But my question is, to this minister, it is going to take some money, whether he wants to recognize it or not. And I look at Ontario, and we're always told we're the best. I ask the Attorney General, if we're the best, how come it is that Ontario has, with about 3 to 4 times the population that Alberta has, spends 9 times as much in legal aid as this province? How do you justify that?
Mr. Speaker, there's many ways that you can measure those who are in need and how you access those who are in need. The program is well under review. The honourable member forgets that there is another $6 million that's spent in addition to the $15 million in terms of legal aid. If the honourable member has a constituent or a person who hasn't been able to access legal aid because they don't fit within the program, or who can't get in it because of some other reason, I'd be more than happy to take that under consideration and discuss it with the Legal Aid Society.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the minister doesn't seem to realize that this is coming to fruition in June, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
But I'd like to designate my second question before they get a little... I know they're a little nervous because they've got a convention coming up, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but I'd like to designate my second question, a member from Edmonton, Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure government members our thoughts are with them as they travel to Calgary and attempt to convince their federal cousins to axe the tax. And that if they vote for it, that we'll vote them out of office. It seems that there's some interest as well in the convention, a resolution brought in by the good folks from Calgary Fish Creek calling for a moratorium on pulp mills until proper environmental impact assessments are done. I wonder, in view of the interest in this matter, if the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife would take this opportunity to assure the House there'll be no more permits issued to build pulp mills until there are proper environmental assessments, including the new ALPAC, and that those assessments will cover the important question of whether the timber harvesting can be done in an environmentally safe manner.
Mr. Speaker, the responsibility on environmental impact assessments is under the responsibility of the Minister of Environment, who isn't in the House today.
Well, the Minister of the Environment is conveniently not here today. I just wonder if the government House leader then would amplify a matter that was covered in the throne speech, where there was no attempt to worry about the hypothetical or the future. There was a specific commitment for a Natural Resources Conservation Board, which would review resource projects, and I presume that includes pulp projects. I wonder if the government House leader can assure the House that the Natural Resources Conservation Board will be in place before any new pulp mills are licensed in Alberta.
All right. The honourable member, like everyone else in the Assembly, will have to await the tabling of legislation at an appropriate time.
What's that mean?
Well, Mr. Speaker, if you won't table the legislation, I will. I have a draft of the legislation I'd like to file for a copy of the Assembly. The draft states the Cabinet can exempt any project it wants to, that the Board is not required to hold public hearings. It's not even required to advertise.
Order, please, honourable member. It's not here to discuss the bill. Get the question in, please, on the supplementary. Thank you.
More importantly, it restricts intervenor funding mightily, and I simply want to ask the government House leader that these important deficiencies in the legislation will be fixed up before it's tabled in the legislature.
All right. Mr. Speaker, the honourable member for Jasper Place is offensive in the extreme in the way he continues. Oh, my goodness. You know, they can dish it out, but they can't take it. You know, they don't like any criticism. No. The honourable member is offensive in the extreme by continuing to make statements when he should be asking questions. Legislation. Leader of the Opposition is feisty today, isn't he? Noisy anyway. When legislation is tabled in this Assembly, it will be up for consideration. Amendments can be brought forward by any member of the Assembly at committee study. If the honourable member for Jasper Place will await the tabling of actual legislation brought forward by a government minister, which is the appropriate thing to do, then he will have his opportunity to bring forward amendments if he doesn't like what's in the legislation. In any event, it's impossible to comment on draft material, which I haven't seen, and which may or may not be draft legislation
The honourable member is clearly anticipating events, and I would suggest that he just take it cool. It'll come along in due course.
Member for Edmonton Glengarry, Leader of the Liberal Party.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister of Education. There are a number of ways that the government could cut spending so as to provide additional monies to areas of greater priority, like the education of our young people. It is a fact that a kilometer of paved highway costs about $500,000. We know that about $250 million exists in the lottery slush fund. And we know from an entrepreneur in our province that the government has made some damn poor investment risks in our province.
Excuse me, Honourable Member. Yesterday, another member was guilty of swearing a couple of times, and it really isn't appropriate for this House to be doing that. I don't care.
DAM. Mr. Speaker, the Alberta government's commitment to primary and secondary education has fallen. At one time we were at the top in terms of per capita grants for operating. We now have slipped to 7th position. Most of the Atlantic provinces spend more on operating grants than we do. We now spend nearly as much on servicing our debt as we do in educating our young people. My first question to the minister is this: does the minister find it proper to spend as much servicing debt as we are on looking after and training and educating young people in our province?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member once again has not done his homework. He knows, as all members of this Assembly know, that Albertans send two very important messages to this government and to all members of this Assembly. One is to keep and to maintain the best quality of health and education services for the people of this province. And secondly, they've said very clearly to this government, Mr. Speaker, is to reduce the deficit, balance your budget, and get your fiscal house in order. Well, Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member is asking, have we got our priorities straight? You bet we have our priorities straight.
That's right. Education number one. Education. You tell the truth.
Mr. Speaker, we have put 3.5%, $73 million new dollars into grants, financial assistance to schools in this fiscal year, which began the other day. Mr. Speaker, that is a significant contribution by all Alberta taxpayers to the number one priority of this government, and that's the education of our young citizens.
Oh, wow. Back it up. Back it up.
Mr. Speaker, this is a fact. We have fallen from the top to 7th position. In per capita allocation for operating grants, we are 7th.
Shame.
The Atlantic provinces spend more money on education than we do for our young people. I'm asking the minister whether he will commit to impress his colleagues in cabinet that more has to be given to the priority area of education in our province.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate for once hearing from the leader of the Liberal Party for the first time in this Assembly talking about the importance of education. Talks about a bunch of other issues, but he's now picked a nice opportune time to raise the education issue. Mr. Speaker, I believe that Albertans would say that when they contribute about $5,100 per student to every single student's place in our province's schools, that's about $150,000 per classroom of 28 or 29 students. Mr. Speaker, that is a significant contribution by Alberta taxpayers to a quality education for our young people.
Here, here.
Mr. Speaker, given that we're in the process of paving every secondary road, and probably after the next election we'll be paving, I suspect that the next promise likely to come out of the convention in Calgary is to pave back alleys. The question is this: will the minister commit to a plan, a process, to provide more monies for the educating of our young people in Alberta? Yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, we have said very clearly in our throne speech, and it's reflected, we've put Alberta's taxpayers where our priorities are, where our promise is to make sure education is our #1 priority. And I say to the honourable member across the way, Mr. Speaker, that when the province, when this government contributes on behalf of all Alberta taxpayers over $150,000 per classroom, Mr. Speaker, that is a significant contribution by all Alberta taxpayers.
Right on. Innisfail.
Innisfail. Innisfail.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Education. The issue of school board trustees being in a conflict of interest in negotiating because their spouses are teachers in the same district was a recent issue during the Edmonton Catholic School Board negotiations. 3 of the 7 trustees could not take part in the negotiations or in the vote. And now I realize that this didn't cause a problem in this particular negotiations. However, my concern is, or I'm aware that there's one district in the province, and there could be others, that have a majority of the trustees in a conflict of interest. My question to the minister, is there any provision in the School Act that deals with this situation should it arise?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me say that on behalf of the Minister of Labour and myself and all of our colleagues in the Assembly, how pleased we are that the Edmonton Catholic teachers and the Edmonton Catholic Board settled their agreement so that children and school children are in classes yesterday and today, and the teachers are teaching in those classrooms.
Yeah, good work, Jim. Good work.
But, Mr. Speaker, it is regrettable that in the case of Edmonton and in the case of a number of school boards across the province, there are trustees, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, there are trustees who have a pecuniary interest or a money-related interest that under the School Act requires them to absent themselves from discussions and, in fact, the voting on some very important matters. And, Mr. Speaker, we're faced with a dilemma in this province. Those individuals chose to run in an election. They were successful. Regrettably, they have a pecuniary interest. We have a number of things we can do, Mr. Speaker, as we explore the options. One is we could do what the Municipal Government Act or the Local Authorities Election Act requires, is that anybody who has that kind of pecuniary interest is barred from seeking office. That's one option. The other option is to say that we'll limit the scope or the scope of the conflict of interest so that this isn't a problem for trustees. Mr. Speaker, I've said publicly that it concerns me, that clearly it's something that this Assembly should be discussing and debating, that I would want to hear from trustees and from teachers, from voters and taxpayers as to how they see that conflict of interest and how it ought to be dealt with. Mr. Speaker, the estimates of the Department of Education are up for debate tomorrow morning in Committee of Supply, and I could think of no better time and no earlier time than to debate and discuss this important issue.
Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister of Education is, what would he do now if such an occasion arises that the majority... okay. Could I reword it then? Is there any provision in the School Act if it did happen? Or if it... Sorry, I suffer hypertension.
The honourable member raises a very legitimate point. There is a concern amongst school boards and voters and taxpayers in this province. Very important.
Order, order, order.
Let's have a little less shouting back and forth as if it was a primary kindergarten grade or something, please. Honourable Minister.
And, Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that this Assembly will have to debate. Today there is a provision in the School Act which might allow the Minister of Education, if it's necessary, to allow a lower the quorum so that school boards who with trustees who have a conflict of interest and may upset the quorum, to reduce that quorum. But again, Mr. Speaker, I think this is something that all members of this Assembly and that trustees and parents and teachers and taxpayers alike should be carefully considering well in advance of the next municipal elections across the province.
Calgary Mountain Dew.
20 votes, Mr. Speaker. 20 Conservative votes in the House of Commons against the GST can stop this unfair tax. We know Mr. Speaker, we know Albertans can count on our new Democrat member Ross Harvey to vote against the GST. He campaigned against it in 1988. We certainly hope that the Liberals, despite their flip-flops, will vote against it too. But the key is those 20 Conservative votes. To the provincial treasurer, Mr. Speaker, what plans does this treasurer have to use this weekend's Tory love-in to get those 20 votes and convince Alberta's Tory MPs to stand up against the GST?
Well, Mr. Speaker,
Send him a copy of our papers.
here we are again. The question of influencing the federal MPs, Mr. Speaker, is, of course, always before us. I think we have taken the time over the past year or so to ensure that all the MPs, together with their constituents, understand very well the position on GST. I notice that the position of the Alberta MPs is not unanimous. There is a difference of opinion there. But I can say that we can't tell them how to vote, Mr. Speaker. It is their responsibility as elected officials to vote in their own conscience, and I imagine they'll do just that.
Mr. Speaker, the grassroots in Alberta are burning. They're on fire. Yesterday, a senior citizen in Calgary gave a message to Brian Mulroney: if the GST is passed into law, she'll never again vote for those who supported it. The message is loud and clear: enough is enough. Will the Treasurer now commit to what he wouldn't do during the '88 election when he helped to re-elect Mulroney and his gang, and use this weekend's political convention to tell Alberta Tory MPs if they vote for the GST, Alberta Tories will never again support them at election time? They'll campaign to defeat them at the polls. Yes or no?
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Sunpine Forest Products Limited has proposed to build a wood treatment and sawmill facility in the Strachan Rocky Mountain House area. It will utilize chromated copper arsenate. It will involve a 2.5 million acre forestry management area, and it will involve as well as many as 10,000 logging truck trips through that rural community each and every year. Up until about 2 months ago or 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife was happy to say, no, we don't need environmental impact assessments into forestry management areas. Today, he very conveniently says it's somebody else's responsibility. To the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, will the Minister please commit today, right now, to undertaking a full, open, public environmental impact assessment process into the Sunpine Forest Products Limited Forestry Management Area? Or
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Repeat that. Mr. Speaker, it just goes on and on and on. It'd be really interesting to know what the position of the Liberal Party is with respect to any development that takes place in Alberta. They can get up and chirp a lot, but you don't see much substance. With respect to whether or not there will be an environmental impact assessment at Sunpine is something he can ask the Minister of Environment when he's in the House. With respect to the forest management agreement area, I don't know how I have to draw him a picture. I made it absolutely clear that we are coming out with a full, public, open process to review, have input into forest management agreements and harvesting plans throughout the life of the project, which will be 20, 30, or 40 years. It will be an ongoing, a living process. If he's just a little patient, keeps his voice down, and listens, he'll hear when it happens.
So the Premier does the job of the Minister of the Environment, and the Minister of the Environment does the job of the Forestry, Lands and Wildlife Minister. Will the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife please tell us how, in light of recommendations by the ALPAC Review Panel to have forestry management agreements considered under proper EIAs, environmental impact assessments, before the projects proceed, and in light of recommendations by the Environmental Impact Assessment Task Force on exactly the same point, how can this minister continue to refuse to undertake proper environmental impact assessments before...
Thank you very much, honourable member. We're not going into 3 paragraphs. You're cut off, honourable member. Order. Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member for Edmonton Meadowlark just doesn't seem to listen very well.
No,
it's absolutely clear. No one answers for this minister but this minister in areas that are my responsibility. I've explained to him, and I don't know how I can draw him a picture to make it any clearer, that an environmental impact assessment on forest management agreement area is not good enough. It's a one snapshot in time. The forest is a living ecosystem and needs to have ongoing planning, ongoing input year after year after year after year by the public. Will have that opportunity. We're going to provide it to them in a full and open way. Just be patient.
Smoky River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honey industry is coming out of its winter hibernation, and Alberta has long been known as a land of milk and honey. My question... My question is to the Minister of Agriculture, and I hope the urban Liberal members will allow me to ask this rural question. Mr. Minister, what actions are you prepared to take to allow this industry to resume, to bring the honey back into Alberta so that we can once again become the land of milk and honey?
Do you want more coffee?
Mr. Speaker, while the milk industry in this province is doing quite well, the honourable member has identified a sector of the agricultural industry that is not doing well. It's been impacted by low commodity prices, but more dramatically impacted by the border closure to prevent the bringing in of new bee supplies. We've been working with the industry since last fall. Last fall we announced a sugar price reduction program to assist and encourage beekeepers to overwinter their hives in an attempt to keep breed stock. We've got an advisory committee out there working with the industry trying to resolve some of the long-term problems. We're applying shall I say, encouragement to the federal government to, well, we recognize the problem with the bringing in of the bees from the mainland USA. We feel that queen bee stock could be brought in from Hawaii. We're still pressing the government for a positive relaxation of the controls on Hawaii, but as yet we haven't received it. But we will continue to work with the honey industry so that we can bring back that balance of milk and honey.
My supplementary is to the Minister of Agriculture. Since a large part of the downturn is responsible by the enactment of federal legislation, will the minister assure this House that he will be pursuing the federal minister who is in charge and responsible for the enactment of this legislation to indeed allow this industry to access Hawaiian queen bees so that we can get back into the situation where we once were, a proud industry?
Mr. Speaker, we will continue to pressure the federal government in that direction, and if not successful, we'll pressure the federal government to work jointly with us in reestablishing the industry.
West Yellowhead. Mr. Speaker, Albertans care deeply about protecting Alberta's parks and wilderness areas, as shown by the tremendous public response last weekend to the Endangered Species Rally in Edmonton. Meanwhile, this government has within it a minister who is totally at odds with the wishes of Albertans to conserve and protect the provincial park system in Alberta.
That's right.
To the Minister of Parks and Recreation, why is the Minister beginning the process of commercializing the provincial park system by privatizing Roshan Sands Park in the Premier's riding?
Mr. Speaker, over the last several years, the Department of Recreation and Parks and this government has had a policy of privatization where it warrants and where it can be feasible throughout the province. At the present time, we have 5 provincial parks throughout the province that are privatized, and we will continue to look at opportunities in which we can do that in order to save dollars for the taxpayers of this province and more effectively and efficiently deliver the services that the people of Alberta want.
Not so, Steve.
Perhaps, Mr. Speaker, the Minister then could explain how having private companies running parks is consistent with the preservation of the ecology and values of the parks that Albertans so treasure.
Yeah, you're here.
Mr. Speaker, when we develop contracts with the private sector in various areas, whether it's the total operation of the provincial park area or whether it's being garbage collection or cutting of the grass, we ensure in those contracts to protect the environment to the best of our ability, and will continue to do so in the future.
Edmonton Highlands, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the minister responsible for flimsy excuses, that is the Minister for Corporate and Corporate Affairs. Yesterday in the House, another member asked the minister what it was the minister planned to do to protect consumers against their travel companies going belly up. And he came up with this ingenious answer, which was, we'll let the consumers take out optional insurance fees. In other words, they get to pay the insurance fees that the company should pay. So I had a look. He says, well, Alberta companies are too small compared to BC and Ontario, where they do have to pay their own insurance fees. What do you think Statistics Canada found out? But that on the prairies, the average family spends $162 on package tours. 10.9% of prairie families buy tours, compared to 9.8% of BC families. So my question to the minister is this. If the British Columbia government, and God knows they're not a particularly exemplary government, if they can ask the insurance companies to pay their own insurance fees, why can't this government?
Mr. Speaker, the member is both naive and unknowledgeable if she thinks that anybody except the consumer is going to pay for the cost of any insurance plan that we have in this province or any other in the country. And Mr. Speaker, the selective use of statistics that way does not do the member any merit. Yes, perhaps Albertans travel that much more than British Columbians. There are more British Columbians. There are more people who travel to and from there. If the member wants to look at statistics with respect to the number of travel agencies, the number of travel packages, the number of travel tours, she will well find that British Columbia has more. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member will well find that the plan put into place in British Columbia has in fact been used all up at one time or another, and taxpayers, those who may not have the money to travel, to go to Hawaii, have had to put in dollars to that system. Is the member suggesting that our first choice should be that members of the public on a minimum income or who are not traveling, in fact, should pay for these travel packages?
Oh, Mr. Speaker, the minister knows better than that. What I'm asking the minister is that the insurance companies pay their own bills instead of bilking the traveling public. And he also knows that fares out of BC are cheaper than they are out of Alberta, so his statistics are nonsense. My question to the minister is this then. Given that he doesn't want to go and protect consumers, why doesn't he at least request of his good buddies in the travel industry that they bond themselves and put the money that they may have to pay downstream into trust accounts like any other responsible industry would do?
Mr. Speaker, the member's preamble to her question is both unfair and inaccurate. In fact, this government has the heckling by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. If he wants to hear the answer, I'll continue. Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that this government has taken action to have the travel industry agree that there would be an insurance package offered to every consumer, an insurance package which would give you the choice of either safeguarding that investment or not. What could be in fact fairer to the consumer, or in fact more opportune, than to allow each individual to make that choice? Therefore, individuals would not have to, be it through an insurance scheme that would by the insurance agencies, which obviously would cost all consumers in the travel industry, or through some government scheme, pay for that unless they want the insurance. What could safeguard consumers more or be more accurate? I might say, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the question of travel agencies, that is going in the direction that's in the best interest of consumers. Travel operators, tour operators, we still have some work to do, and they may have enough volume that that kind of assurance plan or that kind of pool might be appropriate, as it is in several other kinds of insurance. But the member is entirely off track if she is suggesting that this method of operation is not in the best interest of consumers. In fact, we are allowing those to pay who want to and who can.
Thank you.
Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Transportation and Utilities. Mr. Speaker's... Mr. Speaker, somebody's rattling their chain over there again, but nevertheless, the 1970s, in the early 70s, Mr. Speaker, the New York State Public Commission, then later followed up in the late 70s by the University of Colorado, and then again in the late 80s, come out with some very interesting statistics in that the rate of childhood cancer for people living within 100 feet of power lines over 700 volts was double the rate of those outside that area. Now, even in Houston, Texas, just last year, the year before last year, a court case awarded $25 million in damages against the power line that had built the power line through a schoolyard. What I'd like to know, Mr. Speaker, up from the Minister, is there any monitoring or any studies being done by the utilities branch here of the effect of high power lines on the health of people? That's the...
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Energy would be the one to give you the more technical answer that to the question that I think was asked. I'm not sure exactly what the question was.
Yeah. Button, who's got the button, Mr. Speaker?
Say you'll look into it, Boomer.
Would the Minister then, not only if he's going to look into it and refer it to the Minister of Energy, which I don't see the connection with utilities, would he go so far as to consider putting a moratorium on any new high power lines in the residential areas until such a study has been checked out?
Everybody's doing moratorium on it. Mr. Speaker, I will pass that question on to the Minister of Energy as well, and he will have.
Lesser Slave Lake. Lesser Slave Lake. Order, please. Order, Westlock Sturgeon. Perhaps we should cut off the power supply to some people here.
I think they're pretty hungry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've been receiving many calls from Slave Lake, and during many months, many meetings with the municipal authorities in Slave Lake, there's been a real shortage of housing, particularly for the low and mid-income families. And despite many meetings I've had, and particularly many queries I've had with the Minister of Municipal Affairs, I haven't received any indication of where this particular situation, how this particular situation is going to be handled. Would the Minister of Municipal Affairs provide me with information of any plans which will deal with this situation?
Yes. Mr. Speaker,
I thought when I moved to this side of the house that I wouldn't have my own members picking on me. Right. Mr. Speaker, I'll try and be as brief as I was over on that side of the house.
God, I hope not.
Okay. The honourable member has been pressing me the last month or two consistently and persistently, and I didn't think it would come into the Assembly and become a public event, but I guess it has. And I've given the honourable member the commitment that I'll try and do everything I can in terms of my community housing program and rent supplement program. I know that general answer doesn't satisfy her, and the persistency will most likely continue, but I'll work on it.
Thank you. Speaking of persistence, Mr. Speaker, I'm beginning to feel like I've been picked on too. However, I would like to. Thank you. I've heard this particular promise made, and my constituents are really concerned, and particularly in the Slave Lake area, since it's an accelerated growth community. I would like to know if there's anything what kind of plans we may have within the next little while which will accommodate this particular situation, if I can have some timelines.
Mr. Speaker, one of the projects that started in the planning stage of 1989 was a community housing project of 18 units, and that program will continue, and it's our intent to complete that during 1990. I know, though, there are other people that need transitional housing in the Slave Lake area besides the rent supplement program, and I think that's an area I'd like to supplement as well for the honourable member. And I would urge her to be persistent and to continue to apply the pressure to this ministry.
Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Attorney General. There is a real need for this government to amend legislation which discriminates on the basis of marital status. A clear example of this is the Widows Pension Act, which refuses assistance to needy individuals simply because they are single or divorced. Government inaction, however, has meant that a group called Single and Divorce Speak Out is being forced to rely on the court system to challenge this blatantly unfair legislation. As a quick and just resolution of this issue is clearly a matter of public concern, and as this government appears determined to have this matter settled in the courts rather than in the legislature, will the minister at least commit this government to covering the cost of this legal challenge?
Mr. Speaker, the government does not fund challenges of any legislation. If the group would like to consult with the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, perhaps they could find legal aid.
How about Don Cormy? How about Don Cormy? How about the Cormy plan?
Mr. Speaker, yesterday we heard the Treasurer justifying $1 million in legal fees for Mr. Cormy by saying Albertans wanted the process. We paid the bills to ensure that the fullest possible examination of the issue was undertaken. Well, Mr. Speaker, Albertans want the fullest possible examination of why this government is refusing assistance to many who are in financial need on the basis of their marital status. How justify spending $1 million in legal fees for Mr. Cormy when he fails and is unwilling to assist Single and Divorce Speak Out with $5,000 to $10,000 to...
Thank you, Honourable Member. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General did not supply any funds to the public inquiry, to any lawyer through the public inquiry. If the Honourable Member perhaps would like to support this group on their caucus, The government does not have a facility to fund private individuals or groups that take actions.
Evans and Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a long time ago, approximately more than 2 years, the Premier announced the formation of the Premier's Council on the Status of Albertans with Disabilities. And that was done in conjunction, of course, with Rick Hansen coming throughout the city. The action plan came down, Mr. Speaker, very recently. And I, for one, I believe all of us should be commending the Premier's Council for that action plan. Mr. Speaker, the action plan, as I said, was excellent. My concern now is where do we go from here? Very little has happened in the last 2 years on improving the lifestyle of Albertans with disabilities. The assured income for the severely handicapped, for example. 8 years frozen. 8 years. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister of Education, who is responsible for the Premier's Council on the Status of Albertans with disabilities, will you assure this Legislative Assembly that you will come down with a timeline, a specific timeline, as to when the recommendations will be implemented prior to this session ending?
Time for question period has expired. Might we have unanimous consent to complete this series of questions? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, I totally reject the honourable member's suggestion that very little has been done to support and assist those Albertans with disabilities in this province. There is my colleague, the honourable member of Family and Social Services, and my colleague, the Associate Minister, may want to supplement the answer. But, Mr. Speaker, the Council's report, the Council's action plan recommends and acknowledges the work, the significant work that has been done in this province on behalf of those Albertans with disabilities. As for how we will implement the action plan, Mr. Speaker, it came down 5 days ago, and I will be discussing with my colleagues in the days ahead exactly how we will begin to respond and how we will begin to implement this plan. I'm delighted with the commitment by the chairman of the council, Mr. Premier, to help us to implement this visionary plan so that all Albertans, no matter what their ability, have an equal opportunity for a quality life in this province.
Now, Mr. Speaker, that's not good enough for me. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, is the Minister prepared to tell this Assembly that he'll go to his Cabinet colleagues and fight for some improvements in the immediate, such as addressing the 8-year freeze on the assured income for the severely handicapped now?
Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, will work with my colleagues, including the Minister of Family and Social Services, to implement this far-reaching, visionary plan. I believe that I agree with the honourable member when he says that he is excited about and, in fact, proud of the tremendous work done by the Premier's Council and the various task teams that came up with the recommendations. Now, Mr. Speaker, we want to study the report and respond as quickly as we can to put in place many of the excellent programs which they have recommended. But I might ask my colleague, the Minister of Transportation, to supplement the answer as to how many of the recommendations in the report in the transportation area, how many of those are already being implemented. In the Department of Education, we have already begun, just as it is recommended, that we conduct a special education review, and we're doing that, to study both the cost and the funding of special education, the coordination of services so that it's not just done by the Department of Education or by school boards, but that it includes Family and Social Services and the Health Department and community agencies, and also the evaluation of the effort and the work that's done by school boards to ensure that special education students, their needs are properly met.
Sure. Before we move on to its request under Standing Order 30, might we have unanimous consent to revert briefly to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Minister of Economic Development and Trade, followed by Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure, sir, to introduce to you and through you to members of the Legislative Assembly 14 students from the Archbishop Jordan High School. They're joined by Miss Yolande Jolly and Miss Shalinko, and I would ask if they would rise and receive a very warm welcome in this Legislative Assembly.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to introduce to the Assembly 7 other members, more members of the Friends of the West Country group. They are accompanied in the gallery by their president, Henry Collins, and another spokesperson, Stephen Haupt. I would ask that they stand and receive the welcome of the Assembly.
With respect to notice given earlier today, under Standing Order 30, the request by the member for Edmonton Glengarry, the chair, having examined the wording of the request, rules the entire matter out of order under the